Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are back here doing a solo show this week, no guests. If you've been listening, you know that I've been doing a series of solo shows kind of focused on and kind of refreshing some of the content that I probably covered 5, 10 years ago. So previous show, we talked about things like the 4 elements of an innovation framework. We talked about creating problem statements, introduced the concept of box thinking. And so today we're going to continue on with that basic theme and covering another area that is absolutely critical for your innovation success. So let's take a quick few minutes. I want to refresh, bring everybody up to speed on what we've covered a little bit. Not going to go into a lot of detail. You need to go back, hop on over to killerinnovations.com for the podcast, or hop over to YouTube for the videos of these shows. And that's where all the content is hosted. So that's your best place if you need to get caught up. And then don't forget to subscribe either to the podcast or over onto the YouTube channel, so that you get the new shows as they are coming out. So let's talk about what we've shared in the past, and that is this whole concept around the 4 elements of an innovation framework. So the 4 elements of the innovation framework consist of focus, ideation, ranking, and execution. So what does I mean by each of these? Focus. Focus is the area of your framework that you set up processes, you set up ways of collecting information that identify problems that you as an organization are going to go after. So you define and research the opportunities. We refer to them as problem areas or problem statements, but they can also be just upside opportunities. But focus is where you have to start. It is where you have to begin the path, because otherwise you don't know where to look. You don't know where the search is to begin. Next is ideation. So based on where you're focused, you got to create a funnel of ideas. Now, in some cases, I've seen organizations where they'll set a focus or a series of focuses for the entire year, and then they're running multiple ideation activities, workshops, brainstorming, customer meetings, etc., over an entire year around these focus areas. But the ideation is the generation of ideas, and it's just cranking out and collecting up those ideas. And then ranking. Ranking is where you take that collection of ideas and now you score them. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to come up with a ranked list. The ideas that are going to have the biggest impact, and the ideas that maybe didn't have quite as much impact. Key is you never throw away an idea. You keep them all. Keep them all. And then execution. You got to take the best ideas. You got to run some experiments. You got to crank them through and see what you can come up with. And that is probably one of the tougher areas, because that is very unique to your organization on how you launch those products. You already have a product introduction process. Do you have what Apple refers to as a PIP? Do you have set phases? Do you have funding models, budgeting strategies? What is it that's unique to your organization? Execution becomes key. Now, we've talked in the past about what's the difference between a framework, which focus, ideation, ranking, and execution is a framework. It gives you a structure. It gives you a way to think about innovation. It is not the processes. The processes are unique to your organization. Do you like brainstorming? Do you collect ideas or problems from customers through some, other mechanism? Do you do open innovation as a way to generate ideas, meaning you put a challenge or a problem statement out and you collect ideas from third parties? There's lots of different ways. Those are processes. We're talking about the framework. So focus, ideation, ranking, execution. And we use the word fire. So you'll hear us, and there's probably now a couple thousand organizations that use the fire framework. They talk about fire, they talk about focus, ideation, ranking, execution. They that's how they communicate inside their organizations. And then they build their unique set of processes under that framework. So you can take and use fire, knock yourselves out. It's not something that you know we've trademarked or protected. This is something that I introduced, I don't know, probably more than a decade ago, in one of the old podcast shows. It's just a way to kind of keep the structure in your head. And it also helps with employees because it then gives you a language. So, when someone's coming up with an idea, well, what's the problem statement? Where's the focus? What are we trying to go after? And then ideation. Let's run some ideation. Maybe doing a combination of brainstorming and open innovation. Whatever you want to do. Ranking. How do you do ranking? Do you prioritize the ideas? How do you put them in some kind of stacked rank so you know the most important idea to work on? And then how do you execute? Fire gives you that framework. Now, today we're going to focus on ideation. We've already talked about focus in kind of a broader context. We talked about ideation specifically around problem statements and making sure that you draft, write, really, really think about the problem statement. Now, in that show, the one quote that I absolutely love is the Albert Einstein quote. Albert Einstein was once asked if he was given 1 hour to save the world, what would he do? He thought about it. His answer was he would spend 55 minutes defining the problem, 5 minutes solving it. We tend to want to go right after the answer. We're cranking out ideas and solutions. We don't spend enough time thinking about the problem. That is focus. That is crafting the problem statement. So I'm going to assume that you've listened to that show and you have completely understand how to craft that problem statement, and you've got a problem statement that you want to go after. Now you want to generate the ideas. Ideation is about generating more and better ideas, not just quantity, but quality. How do you raise the bar on the quality of the ideas that you are generating? Now, there's one thing you have to do right at the beginning of ideation, though, is you have to think about it in the context of what's the bar you are going to set. You're going to try to solve what I call that innovation gap. More and better ideas. The more is the quantity, the better is that quality dynamic. And what we think about it is what we call killer ideas from killer questions. I am big on question methodologies, and we're going to cover this more here in a second. But asking better questions actually raises the bar and actually will give you a higher quality set of ideas. But one thing you need to do is you need inspiration. You got to feed yourself. You got to come up with, you got to be naturally curious. You have to figure out what kind of gets your spark going. I was originally an architecture major. That's what I went to college for at the University of Illinois at Chicago. I wanted to become the next Frank Lloyd Wright. But then I quickly figured out that I really liked computers. I switched from an architecture focus to computer graphics, specifically at the University of Illinois Chicago. So I tend to be more visually oriented: photography, video, design, product design. So I'm a big Pinterest, YouTube, Flipboard. I used to read a lot of magazines. I now read, obviously them all digital. Two magazines I really liked. One was the Industrial Design magazine, which actually no longer exists, called ID. They went out of business. And then Graffitosum, which was a magazine about graffiti artists. I'm not a graffiti artist. I just thought it was an interesting art form, and the transition from it being an illegal activity to now being artwork that people, hang on their walls in their condos on Fifth Avenue. So you got to figure out what that inspiration, and that inspiration is where your subconscious then will connect those dots, and that's where those sparks come from, and that's where those ideas will be. So this is key. This is where we're going to start. Next up, we're going to talk more specifically about ideation. With that, what are some of the key things you need to think about with regards to ideation? Well, one is you have to think about what type of ideas, what type of innovations are you targeting? So there's always this big discussion between incremental and breakthrough, or what I would call killer. Killer is a breakthrough that is transformative, creates sustainable innovation advantage that the entire marketplace will need to react to. That's what's classified as a breakthrough. So an incremental innovation is just a series of improvements. It's kind of the constant improvement in product quality, maybe new feature sets, multi-generational kinds of things. So it's next steps, improvements. It may be a novel kind of variation to it. A breakthrough innovation is really this paradigm shift, what I refer to as a killer innovation. And that is disruptive, it's market changing, it's a huge leap forward. It's really insight combined with the right place, right time, right? So what's your objective? You're going to go into an ideation, you're going to generate ideas. Which one are you looking for? You need to be clear to the team which one your expectations. Is incremental okay? You looking just for breakthroughs? What is the criteria that you are going to focus on? Now, one of the things that we teach and we get involved in and sharing and working with organizations around is the use of tools that help trigger ideas. Now, the tool that we focus a lot on is the killer question card deck. This is the card deck, contains 48 questions organized around who, the customer, the what, innovating products, and the how. What transformations do you need to make inside your organization in order to make this a reality? Now, these 48 questions that are in this particular card deck come from my book, Beyond the Obvious. If you're interested in getting this card deck, you can get it over at innovation.tools. And there's also a lot of other card decks. And I've done previous videos on things like the Whack Pack and Thinker Toys, and there's a lot of really good resources out there. This just happens to be the one that I use because it's one that came from my work and my research and working with organizations. So what does it mean when I say it's organized around who, what, or how? When you think about ideation, people tend to only think about the product, they only think about the customer, or they only think about internal. What I argue is when you've defined the problem, you need to look at it across all three dimensions. Why? Well, let me give you some examples of what I mean. So here's two who question examples that are in the card deck. There actually are in the card deck. What customer segment will emerge in 5 years that doesn't exist today? And what customer segments that exist today will no longer be around in 5 years? Now, customer segments tends to be one that gets a lot of attention because that's the target of who gets the value from the idea, from the innovation, from the things that come up out of the ideation session. So customer segments gives us a little bit of a fun example. I can give you this set of examples, which is, it's a fun list. Its objective is not to say this is the definitive list. You need to define your customer. What I'm trying to do here is to show you don't need to be confined by how everybody else defines customers. So, for example, yuppies. What's a yuppie? Well, I think we all know what that is. That's a young urban professional. So who's a yuppie? A yuppie is young urban failures. It tends to be people who have tried to live the professional lifestyle, outstrip their income means, and need to kind of step back and do a restart. Mobies and Dobies, mom, dad, older, baby, younger. This is a customer segment of people who wait later in life before they start their families. Woofs, these are well-off older folks. Most disposable income and most house ownership is held by people over the age of 55. Skippies, number one segment for consumer packaged good companies. School kids with income and purchasing power. With both parents working, the kids having the ability to tap money in order to do purchasing. And then sandwichers. This is adults caught between caring for their children and their older parents. I used to be in this category, no longer am. That's just an example of customer segments. When you think about past and future customer segments, that is just an area where you can open up and look into. The what category? Who doesn't use my product because of years or practice or special ability is required? That's not always a bad thing. Hewlett Packard, reverse Polish notation calculators, RPN. If you're not familiar with an RPN calculator, go off and look at it. Requires skills and abilities. Not everybody can use an HP calculator. What products could I create out of unusual assets? Amazon Web Services, best example. The how. What service level could I offer if I controlled the entire experience chain? Or what do customers not like about the process of purchasing my product? The example here I'm trying to give you is that you can use questions that can unlock insight. So let's get ready. Ask better questions. Think about the questions you want to ask in the process of the ideation. What are you going to use as the prompt for the ideation activities? So to participate in the ideation, you need to prepare. You need to dig deep. Don't stop after the first rush. You got to come at the problem from different angles, multiple angles. Feature versus function. Feature is design a better cup. Function, design a better way to carry water or carry liquids. That's an example. Good ideas give people an example. That's how they get the wow factor. And evaluation happens after, not during. So drill down on details. Write out your ideas. Maybe too little detail, better. Give complete. If you're going to come up with an idea in ideation, you got to come up with complete ideas. I've seen it where people in the ideation activities, which we're going to talk in the next segment about, they have too little detail, and they tend to only have one or two words. Then they have better detail when you point it out to them. They tend to then expand upon it. They need to be complete thoughts. You got to provide reasonable amount of detail. However, some people go too much. They write out the entire formula. They do a flow diagram of a program. They start graphing out menu choices for a website. That is too much. So, as we've covered in the first half of this show, we were talking about kind of the setup, 4 elements of the framework, then the concept between incremental and breakthrough, and then talking about how to get people to look at problems in different ways by asking better questions, giving you a little bit of insight on how to use the killer question card deck. This segment, rubber meets the road. I'm going to walk you through the exact process that I use when I facilitate ideation activities with organizations. This is the exact same process. You've heard me talk about the work with the U.S. Marine Corps and other organizations. This is exactly how I run them, how I teach it, how I run them to give people that experience. So I'm going to try to do the best I can at describing that, and I'm going to give you the exact process. Now, if you're listening to this on the podcast or on YouTube and you want this material, hop on over to killerinnovations.com. At the top menu, you'll see free download. Go to that page, download. You can get all of this material, the exact process, everything that you would need to run your own ideation session that will get you an improved number of ideas, but also improve the quality of the ideas. So let's go ahead and get started. So, first up is what I refer to as the individual ideation. I always start off with individual ideation right out of the gate. Now, in the past segment, we talked about, you know, writing out your ideas, getting it to be not just one word, but not too much information, but enough information. So it's one idea per sticky. We use sticky notes. One idea per sticky. People are just sitting at their desks, no talking, no ideas too crazy. Write legibly and big so people can read it. Because eventually we're going to put these on like walls, or I've done them on windows, or I've done them on flip charts. You need to make them the writing big so people can step back and read it from a little bit of a distance. The outcome: create at least 20 unique ideas in the 20 minutes. 20 unique ideas in the 20 minutes. Some people are going to get to 10 and 12, they're going to stop, but you want to set that objective. Get to at least 20 really good ideas. Now you're going to hit a wall. Everybody does. It always happens. That's why you don't run this for 40 minutes. You run this pretty short, 20 minutes, heads down, no talking, and people are putting one idea per sticky and they're just cranking them out as fast as they can. Then what we do is we have them come back to work on those ideas through a process called SCAMPER. SCAMPER stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, or reverse. SCAMPER. Now, there's a lot of ways to look and apply SCAMPER. There's examples of modify and adapt and combine. There's a lot of really good material online. You can just search SCAMPER under Google. You're going to get a lot of information. And again, this information that I have with more details around SCAMPER will be in the download that you can get over at killerinnovations.com. So then what we do is we say generate new ideas using SCAMPER. Again, this is an individual ideation activity. Their heads down, no talking, no ideas too crazy, write legibly, but using SCAMPER. So what can I substitute? What can I combine? What can I adapt or modify, reverse, whatever? Going through the original set of ideas that they came up with, now going back through the ideas a second time through, and apply the SCAMPER tool to generate more ideas. And again, so this is another 10 minutes, and we want them to generate at least 5 new ideas. So 5 to the original 20 that you wanted in the first step. So these two activities combined, individual ideation and then SCAMPER, out of that activity, you want every person in that group to generate 25 ideas. 20 individual, 5 following the SCAMPER. So now you've called time, you've done the clock, give everybody a little bit of a break, because now we're going to do is what we call post, explain, and group. Now, what do we mean by that? You're going to take the sticky notes and people are going to explain them. They're going to, they've got 4 or 5 words on it, but they're going to try to explain it to everybody else that's on that team so they kind of convey it. You need to limit this because some people will go on for 10 minutes. You need to keep it pretty short. I say 10 seconds. If it's 15, who cares? But you want to keep it moving. You don't want it to start dragging out. Yeah, the other thing is as people are sharing their ideas, you post them on a flip chart or on a wall or on a window, on a whiteboard, put the sticky note up. If another person has a similar idea, group it, put it next to each other. You're trying to create this clumping of common ideas. That's really what one of the key activities here. So, and then if someone's idea triggers an idea, add it, put it onto the board, add new ideas. So if someone else is explaining it and you're thinking about it, you go, I maybe have something to add on, or I've got that triggered a thought with a new idea. People should feel comfortable just grabbing their Post-it and whipping out their ideas. So here's the activities, what we call post and grouping. Post and zone/group the ideas. It'll take about 30 minutes, and that's if you limit it 10 seconds per sticky. Keep it going, but you want everybody to stand up, everybody take one idea. Johnny goes first. Here's my ideas. Blah 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 blah. Sally goes second. Pete goes third, and they each get a turn going through their ideas. So this is a post and a readout, and you're grouping. If their idea is an exact duplicate, they don't need to describe it. They can say, I've got a dupe. And they don't throw it away and crumple it away. Walk up, stick it into that group right next to that idea. Now we move on to team ideation. In the case of team ideation, you've done this grouping activities. You brought all those ideas together. Now, one at a time, someone chooses someone else's idea, an idea that really they found intriguing, not their own idea. They choose one idea that somebody else put up on the board that they think is important, that they think is really insightful, or something that getting them really excited. And then they ideate, they think out loud. It isn't like they're going to go down, come up with a post-it note and stick it up there. They're going to say, hey, Sally had this post-it note right here. Is something that I think is really interesting. And, I'm trying to figure out a way, how do I plus it? How do I improve it? How do I make it 2 times better, 5 times better, 10 times better? And I think we can do that by blah, 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 blah. You're trying to ideate. You're building on top of it. So team ideation is building up ideas that are done by others, not your own ideas. You're not trying to improve your idea, the 20 you came up with. You want to ideate and improve on other people's ideas. This is part of this team. And you want to let ideas trigger ideas, and someone else can say, hey, that's really good. I'll put it on a post-it note, stick it up on the board. So now you're actually generating more and more ideas. And you want to build on and develop each other's ideas. You want to turn this really into a team collaboration effort. You want it to be fast paced, move quickly. You don't want to let this lag. People get bored, right? We're already well into a good chunk of time just to run this. What I'm structuring here is this ideation activities. And you remember, you're in ideation, no evaluation, no criticism, that'll never work. So, group ideation exercise. You want to build and develop each other's ideas. Select one idea you are excited about, not yours. Add new ideas, one idea per sticky. And then you want to continue to do the grouping exercise. The objective is to create at least 5 new ideas, 5 totally new ideas. And then you want to post and you want to do the readout. So we've covered individual ideation. That's someone just heads down, cranking out as many ideas as they can put down on post-it notes. Step 2, SCAMPER. Take those individual ideas, go back, look at them a little differently through different tools such as SCAMPER to generate more ideas. So now the individual has a pool of ideas. Third step is to do team ideation. Now, to get to team ideation, the key thing you have to do is share and post in group. Share, stand up, hold your post-it note, and describe what it is that post-it note is describing. Keeping it short. It's not a PhD dissertation. You got to keep it to 10 to 20 seconds, tops. Put it up there, take the next one, describe it, put the next one up. And then the grouping. If you see common ideas, put that post-it note next to it. You want to group them together. Then team ideation is to go back and look at that. Find somebody else's idea, not your own, that you think is interesting, and now plus it, improve it, add to it, enhance it, build on others' ideas. This isn't about saying why an idea won't work. Find an idea that will work, that you are excited about, that triggered some ideas for you. And again, you're generating more ideas. So now, where are you at? You've got some kind of a whiteboard, or you've done it online using Jamboard. If you're not familiar with Jamboard, hop on over to my YouTube channel and search for virtual brainstorming. It'll show you how to use Jamboard to run a virtual brainstorming activities. So you've done it online in Jamboard, you've got post-its, physical post-it notes on a flip chart or on a whiteboard, whatever. However you've done it, you now have this collection of ideas grouped, meaning common ideas from your team are all now grouped by proximity. You've aligned them up against each other. So what do you got? What does this look like? Well, what it looks like is a collection of post-it notes. Now, I did a ideation workshop and actually developed a methodology for the U.S. Department of Education, working on innovating K through 12 education here in the United States. I've done work with other governments such as Singapore, and I've done here in the United States on a state level. Did some work with some curriculum publishers working with the state of Ohio to think about how do you embed creativity and innovation into the education system. So there's a video over on my YouTube channel around this grouping exercise. It actually shows you a video of how to do the grouping. So you want to hop over there and take a look at it. But you end up with a wall, literally a wall of post-it notes. And then what I do is I'll take a marker and I'll draw a circle around those groupings and I'll label them. I'll come up with a name for them. Then everything that's inside that circle. This helps you to kind of see if you've got groupings that are really big. This is, wow, a lot of people thought kind of that same thing. It gives you some form of visual cue. Now, what do you do now that you've got this? You've got 200, 300 ideas up on a wall. What do you do with it? Well, let's back up and let's think about it in the context of the framework that we've been talking about. So we've got focus, ideation, ranking, and execution. Focus, we talked about finding the problem statement. Ideation, that has been today's show, both individual ideation and team ideation. And one important thing I want to make sure I mention before we move off of ideation, and that is when you combine team ideation, some form of enhancement such as SCAMPER or other tool, and combine it with team ideation, so individual plus team, you will generate roughly about 30% more ideas than just individual ideation or just team ideation. Combining team plus ideation, you will get about 30% more ideas out of your ideation efforts. So that's why it is important. So focus, ideation being today's show. And what's next? What's next is going where we will focus on ranking. You now got these ideas, you've defined the problem statement, you've got these ideas, now you have to rank them. You have to put them in some kind of priority order. And that's what we're going to cover in an upcoming show. So next up in a next solo show that I will do will be on ranking. So you want to hop over, you want to subscribe so you do not miss it. And again, the archive going all the way back to 15 years I've been doing this is all available to you. And the videos are all up on YouTube. So you can go back, you can rewind them, and you can get it. And all of the material I share with you is available for free download. Hop on over to killerinnovations.com, click on the free download tab on the menu, and you can download all of this material, all of the slides, all of the focus material that I've given away over all of the years. So you can go back and there's material that's going back a number of years. So you can get all that in one shot. Now, the one thing I would tell you is as we're going through this, you're probably saying, wow, I think I can do this. I'm not quite sure I can do this. One way to get the experience is host a disruptive ideation workshop. You can go over to disruptiveideation.com. The Innovators Network, who I've licensed all of this content to, hosts and teaches these workshops. So you can have an instructor come in, run a disruptive ideation workshop where not only do you learn the process, but you learn the process applied to your problem, your opportunity. So you're generating your real ideas. It isn't just a workshop on methodologies. You actually can get it applied. So disruptiveideation.com. For more information, you can always check out my email, phil@killinnovations.com, or you can text the word innovation to 44222, or send an email to innovation@killerinnovations.com. And with that, we're going to wrap up today's show. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye bye.